Good morning, everybody. Today we are conducting an interview with Voice of America journalist Navbahor Imomova. Navbahor, welcome and thank you for doing this.
Hello.
Hi.
I am very happy to be talking with you and to be doing this together. I should say good morning to you because it's a new day in Tashkent, whereas for us it's 1 a.m. In Washington.
Yes, we do have a time difference, so thank you so much for doing this on your terms. So we have a couple of questions about what is happening in US. We understand that it is a shocking situation, what's happening with ex-President Trump and his indictment process and the criminal charges. So just a few questions about what's happening on the situation. Do you think that Trump supporters can organize mass unrest with what's happening in the country?
Well, we saw what happened today when former President Donald Trump went to New York. Actually, he flew to New York yesterday on Monday. And then today afternoon, he showed up at the Manhattan court for the arraignment. So the protests by his supporters started earlier today and continued throughout the day. And then the rallies moved to Florida, where former President Trump went back after the legal processes in New York today, and he just gave his first speech after following the arrest and the arraignment today. So we have not seen any reports of unrest, but things got really intense between Trump supporters and anti-Trump protesters in New York today. So we know that the New York police department was very much worried and took extra measures, put blockades around town to make sure that everything, remained stable and things didn't turn violent. So there are no reports of violence so far, but Trump supporters are showing up across the United States at various places, expressing their support of Trump.
All right, thank you. And do you think that even though he has these allegations and charges pending, will he still be able to run for upcoming presidential elections in US?
So he's already been charged. He has already been arraigned, which is a process of the defendant showing up in front of the judge and, where he gets a reading of his charges, indictment, and then he either pleads guilty or not guilty. And afterwards, basically, judge decides what happens next. So that has already taken place. So now we can accurately and safely say that he has been charged. He is facing those charges. He's facing prosecution at this point. So what happens next is that his lawyers are going to do their best to get these charges dismissed with the argument, based on the argument that they are baseless, which the Manhattan prosecutor's office categorically disagrees with. So we will see what happens. The next court hearing is on December 4th, so 8 months from now. A lot can change by then, a lot can happen by then. But as far as the presidential campaign is concerned, he can continue the campaign. Nothing is going to prevent him from campaigning and even from being elected. So he's not really facing any barriers, any legal barriers there. But it will be really interesting to watch how this historic criminal case, where he is being charged with, felonies on 34 counts, will affect the voters' mind, right? So he is vowing American voters to vote for him in the upcoming presidential election in the United States, which will take place, as you know, next year in November. So, but before that, you have primaries. So President Trump, I keep on referring to him as President Trump because in the United States, once you're a president, you're always a president. So to be accurate, the former president, needs to go through the primaries, which is a very interesting process, as you know, in the United States. So first, he'll face his own fellow Republicans in this race, and it will be really interesting to watch how this case will play out during that process. Interestingly, his fellow competitors, let's say those who have so far entered the race or planning to enter the race, emerging stars of the Republican Party, or some of them are already quite well known, they have all been in solidarity in terms of positioning themselves on this case. They all support President Trump, which is, which makes the upcoming race quite interesting.
Interesting, thank you. And one publication said that the case was what's happening is too uncertain and technical to deliver the clarity that America needs. They're not going to get the questions that the public or people are waiting to, find answers for. What do you think about it?
Well, I mean, as a journalist, I always refrain from sharing my own personal views, but I can tell you, based on my journalistic analysis and based on our reporting, the court system, the justice system in the United States is quite complex, and it takes a lot to understand it. You have to really be a legal expert, somebody who has gone to, top law schools in the United States to really understand the process, to filter the process. And because it's Donald Trump, who obviously likes drama, as they say here in the United States, who doesn't shy away from publicity and attention, and especially media attention. And we know that his campaign is going to do its best to use this case to benefit the campaign, So all of that taken into account, of course, there are a lot of questions about this case that everybody will continue asking all the way probably through the sentence if this trial takes place. It's very possible. We cannot, deny the possibility of this case getting dismissed, which means that the judge will at some point could decide that there isn't enough evidence to prosecute him, so can let him go. We know that he was arrested briefly today, and then in front of the judge, when he was read the charges, he pled not guilty. So he's going to continue to claim that he's not guilty. We expect him to continue constantly reminding the public that he's innocent, and that in his view, this is a democratic conspiracy against him. This is being done by the liberal justice system in the United States to push him out of the campaign. So, that narrative is going to continue and to be told in various ways every time Trump goes to meet the American voter. Whether it's in front of his own supporters or in other places. So one of the main questions about this case is that the fact that Trump paid two women hush money, which means that, to silence them, not to discuss the sexual relations supposedly he had with them before 2016. So this all happened. The payments took place in 2016 as he was running for president then, and he paid this $130,000, and in the second case he paid $150,000 to this woman through his then lawyer Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen is now serving as the lead witness in this case. He testified in front of the grand jury, which then decided to indict former president. So, and there are a lot of questions surrounding that because many claim, again, critics claim that since Michael Cohen is a former convict and that he was a loyal lawyer to Trump, why should we really trust him? They question his credibility. But I was just watching an interview with Cohen where he is basically saying that Trump is lying, that he did have sexual relations with these two women that he denies, and then that these payments were in fact made. And then he confirms what Manhattan prosecutor is saying, that these payments, checks, and there are 34 charges here, and each of them reflect a separate charge, separate check, vouchers, ledger records, and all kinds of financial things related to Trump's election campaign then. So he is facing charges of financial nature. So New York prosecutors are claiming that he falsified business records, which is a crime in New York. So they are also saying that, interestingly, that these falsifications were made to hide another crime. And thus, this is a serious crime. Now, the overarching question in the United States, which are being posed by many legal analysts, is that what other crime was he hiding? Because having relations with these women is not a crime. And so what was he trying to hide? That's something, that's a question that prosecutors are constantly facing, and eventually we should get some answers on these questions.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. And what is the general consensus? I mean, the feeling, because we know that in other countries, let's say France, Italy, there have been cases of ex-presidents being taken to court and charged, but it's the first time, the historically first president, ex-president, to be facing this. I mean, what's the general feeling with the public and maybe the observers?
Well, what you hear from many Americans, and I heard this several times today, including from people in front of the White House today, where I was reporting from, and we expected Trump supporters to show up there, but they didn't. It was really interesting. People are just going by with their day-to-day lives, and but they are, in many ways, Americans are used to Trump-related dramas. They see them again and again. And of course, this is being especially watched and followed because this is the first time former president and also presidential contender being charged with such serious crime. It's a felony. And so in many ways, Americans are taking note of this event as something that's going to the history books. This is going to be, something that probably future generations will analyze differently. But right now, the Americans are quite divided. Obviously, many Americans, including Trump supporters and just Republicans who don't necessarily support Trump, they're very uncomfortable to see their former president going through such process. But I will tell you that what you hear most, especially if you observe and monitor the American mainstream media, is that many people are actually proud of their legal system, proud of their justice system. They are happy to see that even former presidents can be arrested if they are suspected of criminal acts, and that many Americans were also today quite critical of the way former president was being treated by the court system, because ordinary Americans don't enjoy these kind of conveniences. They don't get to have appointments at court. It's true that former president surrendered himself. He voluntarily came from Florida and got arrested briefly, and then willingly went through the process. He was fingerprinted, but they didn't take his mugshot, for example. And mugshot means when you are photographed, when your face is fully photographed. And we don't know if that we believe that didn't happen for Trump. And he's obviously surrounded by Secret Service, right? I mean, this is a very exclusive treatment of the former president. So while many Americans believe that this is quite normal because he's not just an ordinary citizen. There are many who are questioning why. Why isn't he going through a regular process that many Americans do? I was just watching some satirical shows, night shows in the United States of full of political satire where they question the status quo in the country. And today, pretty much all of them were dedicated to this topic, and they were all making fun of the way former President Trump was treated by the court, by the authorities in New York today. So it's a very diverse society in terms of political opinion. So you will find enough people supporting Trump and supporting his positions, but at the same time, you find there is a huge contingent who is who are very critical of him and of his political beliefs. But in general, I would say that and especially if you listen to the members of the U.S. Congress, who are also quite divided. Republicans are very supportive of Trump in this specific situation, whereas Democrats are constantly saying that this is a country based on the rule of law. So just like anybody else suspected of any acts, illegal acts, Trump should show up in front of the court and be held responsible. So that's something that you generally hear from other Americans, ordinary Americans as well.
Navbahor, thank you so much for connecting today and for your answers.
Well, I'm very happy to talk with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.